This time, I'm going to be handing over to Zach from Loyalty Line's marketing team, who's going to lead the conversation around how to build long-term connections in order to retain your customers. He's joined by John Knott, who is Senior Partner Manager at Omnisend, Chris Lavoie, Tech Partnerships Lead at Gorgias, and Lindsay Kalinsky, Partner Marketing Manager at Okendo. And finally, Matt Hulamard, Tech Partnership Manager at Recharge. Quite the lineup for this one, and I can see backstage that they're all buzzing, so it should be a really good one. Just a quick reminder, this session will lead straight into our last breakout, where you'll have the opportunity to enter rooms and meet each of our experts face-to-face. More details on how to navigate that at the end of the panel. So Zach, take it away.
Hey, here I am. Sorry to keep you waiting for that half a beat as we've got the rest of our panelists arriving. Fee was right about the banter in backstage. We are rip-roaring, ready to go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Panel 3, Building Long-Term Connections to Retain. As Fee said, I'm Zach Priest. I'm a Marketing Operations Lead at Loyalty Line. Today we've got John from Omnisend, Chris from Gorgias, Lindsay from Okendo, Matt from Recharge. This is power-packed, I would call it, team of a panel. I'm going to come to them all in a sec so they can give us a little bit about themselves and maybe a little icebreaker as well. But I wanted to tell everybody who's tuning in a little bit about what this panel is all about. As I said before, building long-term connections to retain. We're going to explore how to effectively build long-term, genuine relationships, sticky relationships, with a result of increased retention rates, long-lasting brand loyalty, the best kind of brand loyalty, the long-lasting brand loyalty, all the way through 2022, which we're steaming through already and hopefully well into the future. So let's jump in. Anybody who's got questions, stick them in the Q&A, stick them in the chat. We want lots of feedback. We want to keep this fun, collaborative, but I'm sure it won't take me much to get our panelists talking. So I'm going to whip around the room. And I might actually ask each person I ask to then pick the next person to intro themselves, if that's okay. I learned that on a webinar I was on earlier this week, and I thought it was a nice tactic. So Matt, why don't I start with you? If you could tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do, and if you could also tell us which brand you would say you have the strongest emotional connection with and why.
Yeah, sure. Just kick it off, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me fine. Just let me know if you can.
All good.
Yeah, cool. And yeah, thanks for having Recharge and the rest of everybody else on this panel. So I am Matt Hulamard. I'm a Technology Partnership Manager here at Recharge. I help build out our technology partnership program. I've been doing this for about a year. Prior to this, I was an account manager here at Recharge as well. Joined the team back in right when everything locked down in 2020. So as an account manager, went through the whole experience of 2020 with a lot of our accounts, helping them get through a lot of business, decisions and stuff like that. Prior to Recharge, I was more on the acquisition side. I was at another company. We were like a third-party checkout with post-purchase stuff. So understand the acquisition side of things. And before that, I was at a local brand here in Portland, Oregon, on the Shopify side. So as a merchant. So it's been quite the ride. For my favorite, or I'd say the strongest emotional connection I have to a brand. So quick story, 2019. Girlfriend, she had big plans to go to Japan. She planned it out. It's going to be in 2020. So right as we kind of realized that nobody was going to be going anywhere in the middle of 2020, I came across this brand called Boxu. What they do, they're a Japanese snack brand, and they find all these really cool, family-made snacks in Japan. And it's a curated box, really. So they send you different types of snacks every month. So I subscribed to it. And instead of going to Japan, I brought Japan to her. So,
oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah. So I have a really strong emotional connection to that one for that personal reason, but also just being an account manager through 2020, I do have a lot of emotional connections to a lot of the brands that I was working with, just going through all the different situations that 2020 brought. And I'll kick it to Lindsay.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Lindsay Kalinsky. I'm a partner marketing manager at Okendo. We are a reviews and ratings and UGC platform for Shopify. We power about 5,000 high-growing, fast-growing Shopify brands. Personally, I've been in SaaS for about 6 years now and e-commerce for the last 3.5. So similar to Matt, have kind of touched different aspects. I've been in sales, I've been in CS, I've now in marketing, and kind of being in e-commerce during COVID. I think we we've all experienced the wild ride that is, but it's been, I think, on the flip side, really thrilling for a lot of us. If there is a positive there. But for me personally, a brand that I've connected with more from a nostalgia perspective more than anything recently has been Abercrombie and Fitch, actually. So they had some really bad PR, bad leadership a few years ago, and they've done a really great job of rebranding, being more inclusive, having more, diverse models, supporting causes. But I think what they've done that's really smart, I grew up Abercrombie. I'm really out millennial and calling that out right now, but
you're in fine company.
Exactly. I grew up with Abercrombie kids. I went to middle school and high school, grew up to, Abercrombie and Fitch. And rather than staying with that like 14-year-old demographic, they've decided with this rebrand to age up with the people who were originally, their demographic in their market. So they've done more age appropriate, mature clothing. Like I said, just I think all of their marketing has reflected that. So I've kind of gotten back into it. Like I said, it's just kind of brought a new sense of nostalgia for me.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Who should we go to next?
Sure. So let's go with Chris.
All right. Cool. Yeah. So I'm Chris Lavoie, and I lead tech partnerships at Gorgias, which is a Shopify customer support help desk platform that really helps you deliver seamless customer experiences, really for the full end-to-end life cycle. So whether it's a first point of contact through an Instagram ad, and you might be DMing or commenting on posts, we're pulling in that communication all the way to the end where you might have a post-purchase customer support issue like a return and exchange. So we're powering all of those engagements. A brand that I'm particularly drawn to, I would say, is Ash and Erie, which is a men's clothing brand specifically for those that are 5'10" and under. I'm right at that limit, I'm proud to say. And the reason that I thought of that brand when I saw this question was, I'm about 5'9" on the dot. And so a lot of the clothes that you'll buy from traditional stores, maybe H&M, American Eagle, other stores like that, sometimes the fitting isn't quite great. And then when I came across Ash and Erie, they have a great, I don't know what tools and apps they're using on their website. Maybe it's custom built, but they make it really easy to like input some bits and pieces about yourself, and then it will suggest a size. It's like, okay, maybe a medium's good here, maybe a large is here. And since I've been ordering with them, the fits are always top notch. So this, really helps you feel confident with all the clothes you're buying. So that's one brand that I thought of. It's a cheesy story.
No, that's a great story. We're in the game of cheesiness here. So much loyalty is about cheesiness. Thanks, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
John, I think that just leaves you.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is John Knott, Senior Partner Manager at Omnisend. If you're not familiar, Omnisend is an e-commerce focused marketing automation platform. We work with about 70,000 brands across Shopify, BigCommerce, and Woo. Similar to the rest of the panel, I also got my start in sales enablement. I've worked in partnerships roles. I've worked for companies across the e-commerce ecosystem with logistics and fulfillment, and now top of funnel with the acquisition side of things with marketing automation. So it's fun to piece it all together, and we had a close-knit bunch of folks, don't we? I could talk at length about Baksu. I met the owners in Brooklyn the other day. They're wonderful people, and similar with the Abercrombie and Fitch piece is so fascinating. I didn't realize that they had shifted their audience towards who initially wore the clothing. Like that's a long-term audience strategy right there. So I really appreciate that. But when I think about a brand that I've been loyal to, I think about Nintendo, only because I've never purchased any other video game system, period. So there's been obviously 30 years of my life. I've only purchased two, one being the N64. I don't think I purchased that probably under the Christmas tree when I was like 10. But then I did purchase myself a Switch during the pandemic. And so I guess that's a fairly loyal customer that they found in me. But
I'm guessing, is Mario Kart the carryover between those two consoles for you?
It definitely was. And now I'm like inching towards other non-Mario games, but that's definitely the cohesive piece there.
Oh, nice one. Thank you so much for all those nice emotional connection stories to brands. Why don't we jump into our first question then? And I think, Lindsay, I'm going to start with you, if that's okay. You can kick us off. First question is lifetime loyalty. It's what every brand is aiming for. We were talking Abercrombie and Fitch. We were talking Nintendo. That lifetime loyalty experience, it's exactly what every brand is aiming for. So what would you say is the main factor that makes a shopper loyal to a brand?
Yeah, well, I think first and foremost, it has to be the product. So, if you don't have a good product or you don't have a product that's fulfilling the needs of your customers, then you don't have the base for, lifetime loyalty at all. But I think after that, once you've, gotten the product right and you have people that, again, have that loyalty to the product itself, then it's things like personalization, community, customer service, all of these different components that if they go wrong can, kind of make you not want to return to that brand at all. But if it's done well and you like have those extra little small touches, those are the things that encourage people to come back, keep your brand top of mind. And again, just make sure that, the customers, those little touches are enough to kind of keep the lifetime loyalty for customers.
Perfect. Matt, we're talking little touches. What kind of things do you think the brand should be doing to work on those little touches? What should they be paying attention to first?
Yeah, totally. So I mean, I agree with what Lindsay said too. Like, number one, product, and then throughout the customer journey, the different touches. Speaking from a subscription standpoint, what we're seeing through the data that we've collected over 2020, 2021. That leads to lifetime loyalty is providing more flexibility for subscribers throughout their subscription journey, essentially. So you don't want to, it's like life has already been kind of like in this weird, like it's been a little tough, so, you don't want to be the reason to make it a little bit tougher. So providing more flexibility to subscribers and allowing them to conveniently access their subscriptions, make adjustments to it, help them make their decisions a little bit easier, and have easy access to prevent things like product fatigue, anything that might lead them to churn out. So just providing that ease of access and getting closer to the subscriber, customer, whichever way you want to put it. But yeah,
I love that, getting closer. Making it easier, making it simpler, getting closer. Chris, when we think about those kinds of things, getting closer to the customer, do you think that that's key to making a shopper feel really loyal?
Yeah, for sure. And I think, the tendency is to think, oh, I need to get close to all of them. A lot of shoppers don't actually want to interact with the brand, and that's fine. They love their products. They love their community that they've built. Doesn't mean that they want to engage. So, just like any good SMS and email marketing automation tool like Omnisend knows, you need to, really hyper focus on your segmentation and not be contacting customers that are already VIP customers. You don't need to waste marketing resources on them. Same thing is true for customer experience. It's very easy for, with a tool like Gorgias to engage earlier in the purchasing cycle through social media, certainly on their website through live chat. But you need to make it available, make it known that that is an option, but you don't need to force that upon them. The way I like to describe something like a live chat is it's essentially a little sales consultant at the bottom right of your screen saying, hey, I'm here if you need me. So for a luxury mattress brand like Satva, which is a $3,000 purchase, perhaps, that's a big purchase for someone. So making it known that they're there, and then they can engage with you. And then when they do, that there's a high likelihood that they're ready to make a purchase. And that's when you can crush giving them a really personalized experience.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I love the little personalized shop assistant there in my bottom right-hand corner. John, do you want to have a bite at this lifetime loyalty cherry as well before we move on to our next question?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think piggybacking off what everyone else said, not all brands have the luxury of being Abercrombie and Fitch or Nintendo, right? So if you're a smaller starting out brand, you have to think about the acquisition funnel. And I think, as Chris mentioned, personalization is a huge tool at your disposal and as a massive lever for loyalty. I think starting with, gathering as much information as you can about the person prior to them even purchasing, right? Gathering that zero-party data if possible, which is one of the buzzwords of 2021 and 2022. But it's true, because the more you know about the person, the more relevant, your messaging is able to be. And so you're not, blasting messaging out to everyone, but you're segmenting and providing that relevant experience with messaging that's going to resonate and products that they want to see and they want to purchase. And that's what builds lifetime loyalty, is providing relevancy. We have so much noise in our life, and especially being advertised to constantly. I saw a Forbes article that said that we see 10,000 advertisements a day in one form or another, which is an insane number. So you have to be able to be super relevant, because there's a lot of noise out there. So think about how you can provide relevancy from the first moment that a customer interacts with you. Yeah,
I mean, I'd love to stay with you, John, for a second on the next question, just to pick up from that point, because I mean, I feel like as a marketer, I feel like I see 30,000 ads a day because I'm paying more attention, it feels like. But some people, some merchants, especially newer e-commerce merchants or merchants that might be trying to do omnichannel approach, it can be difficult to build those customer relationships, and it's because that's hard work. It's a bit of a time drain. How do you make it part of? How does an e-commerce manager or a CEO make it part of their day-to-day without it being too time consuming to build those relationships?
Yeah, I think, start from, what segments are going to convert at a higher rate, right? We already know that, with Omnisend customers, about 40% of revenue is being driven from automations, right? So there's a lot of potency in those messagings. And whether it be a welcome series or whether it be an automation like cart abandonment or browse abandonment, those are the meatiest segments you want to start with first. And if you get those right, that's 50, 60% of the revenue that you're going to drive from automations, right? So after you have the basics in place, then it's about thinking, okay, what is unique about my brand that I can begin to segment more? If it's a skincare brand, am I messaging, oily and dry skin folks the same, or am I able to segment those so that it's hitting home a bit more? If you're a beauty brand, and you're concerned about those that are looking for vegan products versus those that are not looking for vegan products. I think it's all just, your brand, and then unpack it, what you can differentiate from your brand, and then choose the segments that you think are going to get the most bang for your buck, essentially.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that, John. Lindsay, that had me thinking, we're establishing great customers, great relationships with really good customers. We can use those great customers to help us acquire and find new ones. What would you suggest around making it a little bit simpler, less time consuming, to turn those good customers into advocates?
Yeah, so one thing that you can do that's really smart is if a customer has given you a positive review. So if you've asked them for a review, going back to John's point about automating that review request process so that it's set, for a certain number of days, whether that's fulfillment days after, fulfilling, or even better, days after delivery, because the last thing you want to do is ask for a review and the person hasn't even received the product yet, especially with all of the supply chain issues that we're having right now. But once you get that review, again, that's the easiest way to start that two-way dialogue with your customers, and just get, again, that foundation for starting that relationship. So we actually work with a brand, Amora Coffee, and they've done a really great job of integrating their Okendo reviews with Loyalty Lion's loyalty program, and then our email and SMS integrations as well. So they're asking for that review on whichever, email or SMS that the customer has decided that they prefer and opted into. If they leave that positive review, they're then sending another email, or again, SMS, asking if they'd refer a friend for additional loyalty points or an additional incentive. So that's a really great and low cost way to turn your brand advocates, to turn your loyal customers into brand advocates and help with acquisition and bringing more customers on board.
Perfect. Matt, thank you, Lindsay. I think the brand advocate question is worth teasing out a little bit more. And Matt and Chris, I'd love to hear your thoughts on how we can put our efforts in there without it having to be too much of a time drain, but maybe also in the context of, have you got any existing customers that you think are doing really interesting acquisition efforts that might be off the back of that advocacy that Lindsay was talking about?
Yeah, I can kick it off. So again, from like a subscription standpoint, what we're seeing with brands that have the subscription model, a lot of these subscribers that they have are like turning into their most loyal customers, over time. They're getting recurring purchases, reaping the benefits, especially if there's a loyalty program there in place, getting rewards for each recurring purchase, and incentivizing them to stay a little longer. So within that model, there's an opportunity to tap into your loyal customers a little bit more, right? So what we've been seeing, and like I'm almost tempted to kind of grab this referral link that I got from a brand and just drop it in, just like see what happens.
Stick it in the chat right now. We could all go
stick it in the
chat.
Yeah. But no, yeah. So tapping into your subscriber base, your loyal customers, and creating another like sort of acquisition channel for your brand to grow. And it's what's cool about that is it's like having your ideal customers request or pull over other ideal customers into your brand, and it just makes the overall experience of your customer base a lot better. So it's lot of it's aligning with with marketing and your retention strategy. It's connecting the two very seamlessly. But yeah, so I'd say referrals for your subscriber base is something that we definitely started to see a lot more. A lot more brands are starting generally overall put more in place.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're seeing with the cost of acquisitions just going up and up. I thought it was like the 32% ad spend increase last year. I mean, there's obviously a big push to just for this ever more saturated e-commerce market that we're seeing, and that's great for new businesses, but we're also lots of merchants scrapping against each other to steal each other's customers. With that acquisition cost going up, Chris, have you seen from any of your customers or any good examples you've seen out in the market of interesting acquisition efforts to fight against that cost of acquisition?
Yeah, for sure. So I think a big trend that's changing this year and moving forward is evangelizing your customers more than ever. Essentially to let them be your brand advocates. So things started with macro influencers. So finding the biggest celebrity, paying them a ton of money. And that can work for certain brands who have that, that cash flow. But micro influencers is really what's becoming a bigger trend. And, you can still pay some micro influencers. There's a lot of actually great SaaS platforms that make it easy to do so. But even going a step further and actually just turning your regular everyday customers into micro influencers themselves. So one cool integration we now have at Gorgias is with a tool called Gatsby and Gatsby.ai. So now you can see how many Instagram followers any of your customers has, right? Which you can leverage. So for instance, if a customer ticket was created and Instagram followers is, I'm just making this up, greater than 10,000, that'll tag the ticket as VIP, just like you would tag a ticket as being VIP if the average order value or order value in their cart was greater than $100. And so this can allow you to deliver exceptional experience more so to these VIPs. And then you can have automation baked in. It's once you close the ticket and it was a positive sentiment experience, then follow up and say, hey, we'd love for you to post on our socials, to share, basically amplifying your brand, right? So that's an easy way at scale to know who your biggest shoppers are, both in terms of how much they spend with you and how much of a following they might have, and then giving them, handheld copy to use to post on your behalf to kind of amplify the noise.
Lovely. Couldn't agree with that more. Thank you, Chris. John, I've got dog distractions in the background. I'm going to have to come to you next so that people can pin you. First question is, what is the dog's name?
His name is Tucker.
Tucker.
His middle name is Moose, so Tucker Moose. He gets a little excited when they vacuum in the hallway. So that was what he was getting up for.
Thought Tucker was just getting excited by connecting customers and interesting acquisition strategies.
That's
Maybe
right.
not.
Lifetime loyalty is his secret spot. But piggybacking off what Chris said, I mean, I think the resurgence of micro influencers is really interesting, and it's more genuine too, right? I think for a while, the influencer thing was really flashy and it was fun, and then it started to become really cringy. I think that we've felt that for about a year or two, and now we're at a place where ordinary people, I have friends that do micro, influencing, right? But it's local, it's targeted, it's with our, somewhat acquaintance base, and it doesn't feel nearly as cringy, which I think is great. But in terms of some other channels that are seeing, an influx, I mean, paid channels are more expensive than they have been, right? And so you see people obviously Facebook and Google, charging much more. It's more expensive to get those eyeballs than it used to be. Obviously with iOS 15, it's even harder to retarget like you used to be able to. And so folks are turning to affiliate marketing as an example. So that micro influencer piece you mentioned, Gatsby, Referrals, but they're also turning back to good old email, right? The ROI for email is 40x at minimum, right? So for every dollar you put in, you're going to get at least $40 back. And SMS is a crazy new channel. Those two combined is really interesting. You get to own the narrative, you get to own the conversations, and it's a nice platform to be able to set up those key automations, not just based on things like cart abandonment and browse abandonment, but also purchase behavior, inflection points like loyalty points earned. If you've moved up to a new loyalty status, I think looking at some of the Omnisend and Loyalty Line shared clients, it's really interesting to see the ways that they're using those inflection points to drive folks back to the site based on relevant information. Again, relevancy being key there. So I think that paid channels being more expensive is great for us at Omnisend, but it's also an opportunity for brands to get really comfortable with how they can own the narrative on these channels like email and SMS.
Yeah, definitely. Of course. That was really, that's so spot on. And talking about different channels, inevitably what comes up there is, as we've heard in some of the other panels today, the age of the opt-out. It's one of the big challenges, privacy updates, along with all of the physical challenges of shipping delays that are probably going to spill over into the rest of this year. Lizzie, if I could come back to you, and kind of wrap up we've only got a few minutes left. So I want to go double header these questions to finish us off, which is, with those challenges that we just mentioned, privacy, shipping delays, those kinds of things, they can lead to bad experiences or poor experiences, or maybe not the best experience, the ideal experience. What should brands prioritize so that they make sure that they're not over-promising and under-delivering? And what would be your number one recommendation along with that, to help merchants build long-lasting relationships?
Yeah, so I think personalization is the key. It's already expected from customers right now, so it's kind of just table stakes. And going into 2022, it's going to be, how do you do it even better? And I think zero-party data, I think as John mentioned before, is going to be critical for that, especially with iOS privacy cookies going away. Getting data directly from your customers about them that they're willing to give you is going to be the key to creating those personalized experiences moving forward. I think if I could give one recommendation, though, it's make sure, I don't want brands might get excited of like, oh, we can collect all the zero-party data now. It's our only method of finding out about our customers. Like, don't go crazy. Make sure you are only asking for the data in which you are going to use, because customers are going to, they're already hesitant in some ways of giving brands too much information. So from a reviews perspective, again, if you're a beauty brand, you can ask questions in a review of skin tone, eye color, all those things. Especially as a consumer, I can see why you're asking me those questions, because I can see the review. I probably use that data to help me with my initial purchase decision, so I get it. But, kind of taking an extreme example, if I'm a beauty brand and you suddenly ask me, like, are you a cat person or a dog person? Like, why do I need that data, and what are you going to use it for? So it's just being really thoughtful about why you want to collect data from customers and the exact type of data that's going to help you create those personalized experiences, and making sure you're still maintaining that trust, because you can definitely go overboard with a lot of the changes that are coming.
Yeah, I heard something on a different panel I was on a few days ago, which was you want a sense of that digital body language, the things that people are willing to offer up that they're telling you without necessarily, as you said, they're irrelevant. We don't, hey, as marketers, we don't need any more, and as e-commerce managers, any more data in our databases that isn't relevant at all. Yeah. That wouldn't be useful. Matt, why don't we come to you? Number one recommendation for a brand looking to build a long-term, genuine connection?
Yeah. My number one recommendation would be to get to know your customers as much as possible, right? So not only on the micro level of like the individual interactions through email, through help desk, through their reviews individually, but also on the macro level. So, to tie it back to the zero-party data, looking at your customer journey and seeing the different touch points. There are tools out there that you can use to see where your customers along that journey are making certain decisions, right? And so if you see like a drop off at a certain point, that's giving them a macro indication that maybe something's going on there. So you can adjust that. Ultimately, you want to create less friction in that customer journey. So in order to do that, you just need to know what your customers are thinking and doing and feeling throughout that customer journey, and address it and just kind of reiterate on that process. So number one recommendation, just get to know your customers.
I love that. I'm a big fan of that too. Just get to know them. You can ask them as well. You can touch them. Chris, do you want to hit us with your number one recommendation?
Yeah, for sure. I'll mention two things. So one, when it comes to customer support, I think analyzing, historical data on, what type of customer inquiries you're getting, broken down by things like pre-purchase, order status, missing item, things like that, to really understand what your volume looked like. And then in 2022 and beyond is understanding, okay, what part of my support volume can I afford to really automate as much as possible? So, mundane things like Wizmo, where is my order status? That doesn't really necessitate much on the personalization side. But then contrasting that to what part of my support and customer engagement should be less automated and more personalized. So any VIP customer should require more personalized interactions than a non-VIP. Anything where it's a clearly upset customer, maybe they haven't got their order in several weeks, you need to dial back a little bit on the automation, not sound like a robot, and really show them that there's a human being powering that experience. That's number one. And then a big shift as well is actually trying to give as much power to the customers themselves, so they don't actually have to engage with someone via live chat, via phone, via email. So one of the things that we're focusing on is launching essentially like a self-serve portal, where if you go to a website like hellotushy.com, which is one of our brands, the first thing you could interact with on the bottom right of the screen is just this little widget where you can put in your email or your order ID. You can take actions like return an order, request an exchange, get a refund, get an update on the order status. You can also access the FAQ directly in this widget. And so now you're giving all the power back to the customers, which is great for them. And it's great for brands because it saves you from having to have such a high support staffing team size-wise and having to invest so much time in answering those questions. So deflect the support by giving the power to the customer.
Love that. Give the power to the customer, learn more about them. We are out of time, unfortunately, on this panel, but that just means that if you want to hear John's recommendation, you're going to have to go into his breakout session, which is straight after this. All of our panelists have got breakout sessions, so you can ask them questions about the services they offer, anything about this panel, any topics you'd like. They're super interactive. You can turn your camera on, you can take part in the discussion. So I'm going to be in one of those panels too, I think, with Matt, one of the breakout sessions. So we will see you there in a second. Thank you so much, everybody, for being on this panel. Thanks for interacting, everybody, as well. And if, you can jump into the panels now.